Hi, this is Brandon Lamarche with assignment 2 of MIT 806. So my project that I've created for my students is what I call my fake news project. So our first unit for 8th grade science, we talk about science skills, experimental design, and we end our unit on distinguishing between what is good science and what is bad science. So I've created a fun project for my students that allows them to have a little fun with it, play with things, but also learn how to spot bad science. And the way I want them to spot bad science is to be able to create it. So here, what they're going to be doing, they're basically going to be creating their own fake news article that follows the criteria of what bad science does, what bad studies do, and create a Google Slides presentation that they'll post to my Google Classroom, and then we'll be able to share it to everyone in that class, and they can all look at each other's presentations and try to pick out, okay, what makes this study bad, and what would you do to fix it if you're trying to make a good study. So let's kind of walk through the presentation here real quick. So I usually start off with some, news music, get the kids, drawn in. After that, we go to the objectives of this project. So the objectives are they need to create a fake news, fake science or bad science article. They need to create a sensationalized title that makes a very big claim. Then they need to write a very short summary of their fake study. So kind of like a short little news clipping. And then last, they'll need to add a picture that goes with their study to kind of draw people in. Okay, so my expectations for them is to follow the criteria placed in each component of this project. I will be grading them on whether or not they have each of these four bullet points here. And they need to make sure that is created on Google Slides, right from the Google Classroom assignment page, and then that they turn it in on that same page. All right, so how does this project kind of meet the objectives? All right, this is where I put the importance of this project. It meets the objectives. Um, this project will allow my students to identify, bad science in the real world. They'll be able to understand why people might create studies that are misleading or communicate bad scientific practices. We've already talked about how people who produce bad science are trying to either get noticed so that they can produce more science, or they're doing it for monetary gain and to better themselves. And I hope that through this process, they're able to know what is believable science and what's not. Because there's a lot of things out there that sound like science, and in reality, it's not. So I hope that they're able to take away from that understanding through this project. So um, next, I provide them kind of vocab. So these are vocab of bad science. So we'll mention a lot of these different vocab terms, and if they struggle to understand something, they can go back here and kind of review it. I got 2 slides of those. I provided a bunch of examples of bad science articles that they can use as their title. And then create their own article based off that title. So if they're stuck and not sure what to do, they can use one of these. These are okay, and these actually have some articles that will help them out write these up. But they can't. I communicate to them that they can't write these word for word, as I've read each and every article, so I know what their science is. So they need to come up with something on their own. But they can use this kind of as a start. First thing they have to do is have a cover slide, show their name and hour, so I know whose it is. Their title. Here's some helpful tips of creating their titles. I really want them to be creative. I want it to, impact them in some way and show their interests. Then their summary is going to be about 1 to 2 paragraphs. This is very short, kind of like a news clipping. It should be describing what the study is about, what's the claim, how is the experiment conducted, who's a part of this experimental group, so identifying the people that are being tested, how is the data collected, kind of what they did, and what did the results conclude. So these are all actual steps kind of in the scientific process. So that's kind of where, bad fake science, catches a lot of people. And it's because they do follow a lot of the steps in the scientific method, so it sounds kind of legitimate. And then last is just finding a picture that connects to their article. So I have provided them with my own example. So it looks something kind of like this. It makes a big sweeping statement saying soda will make you live longer. And if you kind of read through the article here, it vaguely talks about a special ingredient in soda that's fit for hydration. It's in the human body, tested on athletes in a short period of time, in a short group of people, and compared it to when they were not being athletes, and saying that they had improved their performance. And basically, if you kind of read between the lines, the compound I'm talking about is water. So it's kind of fun for them to kind of pick out. And then I showed down here a possible bias of the study. So saying soda will make you live longer, sponsored by Pepsi, that's kind of bad science. So this is just kind of a fun project for them. Really, the purpose is just to get them to understand, what's good science, what's bad science, so that when they're in the real world, they can know what's kind of not believable, what's believable, or at least have them questioning things so that they can kind of do their own research. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the boards.